welcome to Becoming Breathwork podcast. I am Sanni Parkkinen and here with me Katja Markelova. We are going to talk about breathwork. Breathwork podcast.
Surprise.
So maybe that's the most important thing that you need to know in the beginning. But I would also want to run some introductions of us first. Maybe you can start, Katja.
This is why my least favorite part always, like the beginning of the beginning and the introductions, and I never know how to do this. So the shortest version would be I'm a teacher. I teach subtle perception and working with fields, work with practitioners of all kinds, and breath has been like forever and always like an obsession, an obsession and the most intimate relationship for myself. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep it at that, like a very short. For those who want to know more, you know how to find it.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm Sanni. I'm also, well, I'm not very keen on using titles, but I'm a breath coach, breath worker, somatic coach. I work with the breath in all its capacity. My branding is called, brand is called Breathing Unlimited, which kind of says maybe more than the breath coaching in itself, because I'm very, very interested in endless possibilities that the breath has to offer, and breath work, however we want to, like you see maybe the name of the podcast, the work is in this. We're not so interested in the work in itself, but more of the breath itself. So yeah, I work with groups, I work with individuals. I'm also very big on the realms of experience, and maybe that's what has actually brought us together to develop this work further, to explore the breath in depth, let's say. And when we say in depth, it's even deeper than that most people would think that in depth is. So maybe we start there. What is becoming breathwork? What is the motivation for this podcast, this work, this body of work, as we like to call it? And how does it? Is there any difference? Does it differ in some way from the traditional way of looking at breath or the breathwork?
Yeah, first I would be I always also speak to this about my work, and I'm very careful about using the word traditional versus contemporary and modern. So traditional, absolutely yes, it is rooted in the traditional approaches. Contemporary, there's a big difference. And we had Sanni and I, yeah, right. You and I, we had so many talks about this, and like, what is this? What is becoming breathwork? And we both, we kind of have this, how we think and how we approach things in a felt way is kind of tends to be big, right? And then exactly what you just said as well in the introduction, like breath in depth, and then whatever you think depth is deeper than that. So I would say this podcast is kind of an attempt to categorize things that are absolutely non-categorical and to bring words to things that are absolutely non-describable, because breath is absolutely non-describable and non-categorical force. And this is kind of, to me, where it all started. Because I've never felt met in this contemporary breathwork scene with a lot of directive, instructive guidance. Like, on the count of 3, you're going to release all your trauma. I was like, what does not work for me? Is it like, and that was my point of questioning as well. Like, how are we in relationship with breath? And how are we in relationship with the body? And most of the approaches that, and I'm generalizing, right? Not all of them, but a lot of the approaches are kind of built on this transactional relationship with the body and the breath. It's like, I do something so that I can feel this. And there's always like, if this, then that kind of approach. If I do this, then I expect this to happen. If I breathe like this, I expect to release all my trauma. And if it didn't happen, then I did something wrong. I did not do enough. I'm failing at healing. I'm failing at human, and all this, the human spiraling happens. And then that was kind of my starting point of like, that something just does not feel right to me, because it does not meet the, like, this very human, messy, dirty experience of living in this body. In a very clean approach, breathe like this, and then you will release all your trauma.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, exactly. And this has brought us to talk about techniques, especially in this first episode. And even though I teach breathing techniques as well, I think they can really be of assistance, really help people in certain things, especially um, when the, let's say, body mind connection. Even though I'm also saying this in this like with a little bit of, okay, well, how can we even say that? Because we are in the body all the time. But yeah, the techniques can be helpful. They can create a little bit of frame. They can narrow the frame. They can kind of bring people to something that is easier to comprehend with the mental and the kind of like, okay, I want to understand what this is. But then the challenge is that the techniques can often be a little bit of an override, and also not really meet the nervous system, the body, the human, um, where they, let's say, deserve to be met. And this is a very, very big thing when I run my trainings and sessions as well. Well, everything is based on choice. Obviously, it's kind of a, you know, just the choice to choose how one wants to go forward, what kind of relationship one wants to have with the technique or with the frame that is being presented. But all along, there is the invitation of kind of like, what else is there? What else is there? What else is there? So that we can kind of dig into the core of what is the relationship in itself. And that doesn't mean that we need to be able to describe the relationship. Okay, the relationship is like this or that, like this and that, like this. But it is more of really like, I often describe it as like that we're mapping out the territory, and we are at the same time laying out a foundation, like more and more stable, more and more stable. We're kind of connecting. All these words they
Nope.
don't catch the core of it, but we are connecting in deeper and deeper connection with the breath. So the breath in itself can really truly reveal its force. And that work, and this, for this goal, again, the words they fail us. For this purpose, the pure technique-based way of looking at breath, teaching breath, facilitating breath work is usually not enough. It is not something that will ever, in my opinion, bring people there. And yeah, I repeat once more, even though we're like the goal and the this and that and that's bad, and then we end up speaking about it with the same words. That's language, and that's the challenge that we have when we talk about these things, rather than guide purely from the present moment, or our presence as the main force in the field that we are facilitating. Okay, I think I went a bit already in depth, as we say. But how do we take this back into the
Mm.
let's say simplified a little bit?
Well, I don't think we can simplify this, but I want to layer what you said a little bit more with
Mm.
so first of all, I also want to kind of make it super clear that we are not saying that everything else is bad and our approach is good and everybody should ditch that and do this because this is the next best thing. No, no, no. Like this is not at all what it is. To me, it's all about the question, am I being met with whatever is being offered?
Yeah.
And a lot of people do get met with this directive. Like sometimes it's exactly what needs to happen.
Mm.
Very be like, breathe like this. This is probably a way you're gonna cry. This is like, this is the music. I know what to do. Yeah. So there's a kind of, there needs to be more of a directive experience brought through the facilitator.
Mm.
Um, a lot of people I know are not getting mad by that. And not anymore because they've done this and there's something else that wants to emerge. Or not being met by this period. Like from the start, like I felt just completely kind of out of harmony with my own experience. And then something that's an experience that is being brought by a facilitator, right? So they do not meet at all.
Mm.
And so this is kind of this approach and this training is for those who are not being met by
Yes.
something that is more like directive and strict and like on count. And um I would also say more, I don't want to categorize it as like this is on the surface and this is the depth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But to me, it's also all about the nuance and the ability to be in relationship, like with every increment of the experience.
Mm.
All goes back to the question, am I being met by this? Yes or no? And if you are, great, do that. And if
Mm.
you aren't, this probably could be a really nice place to explore something else. So just wanted to make super clear that we are not saying like shame on everybody. This is bad. Not at all. And then there's another aspect that I want to add is that, and it's kind of the whole, how I perceive it, is a collective thing going on and the hyperfixation on personal processing.
Mm.
Like it's all about me, my feelings, my processing, my experience, my trauma, me.
Mm.
And then a lot of the times, if not all the times, when I was participating in any kind of breath work, it was all built and directed around my personal experience. And
Mm.
even when a facilitator says things and invites you, like breathe in a way how you want, move in a way how you want.
Mm.
And so it kind of still removes me from the context and the relationality with the life force, with the breath of life, yeah, with the field.
Mm.
And so when it's like a hyperfixation on me and how I want to do things, right? To me, it creates a kind of a smaller experience
Mm.
and
Mm.
tends to be very sometimes even isolating because like this is me moving and breathing in a way how I want, but not being aware of the field. And I'm speaking like in these terms because this is what I teach, like
Yeah.
field dynamics and working with fields.
Mm.
And when we are in relationship with the field, and I really love, as the term comes from biodynamic work, breath of life, as
Mm.
this ever-present, interpenetrating force of health that is moving and creating life. Like it's a generative force of life that is always present, always, independently on whether or not we are aware or not,
Mm.
independently on whether we are in relationship with it or not on purpose. It is there.
Mm.
And to me, it's always it's just that, not just, but just that.
Mm.
Am I in relationship with the breath of life?
Yeah.
And if I'm not, why am I doing this?
Mm. 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 Yeah, there are many points here that I would want to talk about a little bit more. First of all, I completely agree about awareness is a good thing. It's very good thing to have some, capacity to focus and be aware of things and kind of, but we can never catch with our awareness or the conscious mind the bigger forces on play.
Yes.
And breath is a bigger force
Yes.
in the picture. It is, if we go to the anatomy and physiology, it is the biggest inner movement of the body. So obviously we can also, add the layer of spirituality or the traditions there. Yes, I also agree completely that when we say traditional, I actually mean something that is, it comes from a little bit further
Yeah.
further back in history than the contemporary way of facilitating doing breath work. And I think it is very, very often forgotten how much more these forces affect our experience and our process. And I completely, completely agree that we tend to focus so much on the personal. And again, there is always this like flip. It is super good to be able to take responsibility for your own, let's say, healing or life or whatever you want to call it. And on the other hand, it can leave us so alone in the experience of, okay, especially if there's a technique, something that is kind of a guided onto you, and you're completely lost in that. And even the most detailed instructions do not cover if you are floating here in your personal own experience without any stability, any relationship that is
Mhm.
actually kind of like gluing you into the deeper forces in play or the bigger forces.
Exactly.
Again, let's not overuse the depth and deep here. So this is kind of my again, it's not to say that, yeah, we do this the best and you should participate in stuff and not us.
Well, which you totally should.
Yeah. But as a principle, because we can put a lot of theory to back this up. Maybe we don't need to do that because it kind of is also very obvious that this alone here cannot really solve much,
If
really,
anything.
if anything.
And very often even I witnessed that, and I worked with people who experience that a lot, can bring harm,
Yes,
because sometimes it even perpetuates the disconnection more and more and more and more.
exactly. Leaving us feeling even more alone or even
Yeah.
more disoriented, even more, in our own heads or thoughts or loops, imprints, you know, repeating the same trauma loop, whatever word you want to use for any dysfunctional behaviors or mechanisms on play. So becoming breath work already implies that there is something that attaches. Like becoming is like like it's something that meets. There is
Yeah.
the contact point, there is the relationship, there is the whole experience of being it rather than doing it. And I think that's super beautiful, even though, yes, we have come up with the name ourselves. But that whole process and kind of a way of looking into this and at this is beautiful. But okay, I want to just go a little bit back and to talk about breathwork in general.
Yes.
Because breathwork as a word is not very ancient. It's not very, old. So really the work part has been added in 60s or 70s. Like before that, it was not breathwork. It was it was something like that.
I'm
And
just thinking, I'm sorry, this is funny because I'm just thinking we just love some work. let's do like some somatic work, breath work, body work. Like what else can we do? Like
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know what happened to the world when we add so much work into these words and modalities.
yeah, it's like the work was not enough. Like let's do some work after work.
Yeah, exactly. Yoga works. Anyways, um, but breath work nowadays can mean any modulation of breath awareness. It can mean being in any relation, with any breathing technique or practice. And it's also nowadays, in my opinion, quite challenging to know what you're actually participating at, what you are, what you're doing.
This is
You're doing
very
work.
funny.
Yeah. Um, and that, and because I work in as a breathing educator, so I see a lot of people who come and like, I don't actually know so much what this training will be about because, and I want to get some clarity into like what breath work really even is. I find that it's one of the most challenging fields to navigate in this modern healing business
Yeah.
because there are so many different approaches, modalities. Some claim to be traditional. Some don't claim that, which is also cool. Um, and there, of course, there is this, mix and we come up with new things, and we add some biodynamic principles, and then there is some, pranayama things, and then we say that this comes from Tummo and Tibetan Buddhism. And my background is in traditional yoga and especially the tantric approach. And I used to be very this like strict on like, don't call it tradition. It's not tradition. There is nothing that implies that this is traditional or this is in line with text or practices that were being practiced thousands of years ago. And I really think that the solution, also for me, in my mental struggle and with these words, is the relationship. Because we, modern human beings, we have a worldview that is very tool-based, technique-based. And we look at objects, we look at stuff in like outside of us, like, oh, I want that. That will help me. Let me just bring it closer to myself, and that will help me. That will solve my things. But we very often are ignorant, and like again, there is no shaming in this. There is no like, oh, don't be ignorant and you will you will heal. um, we are very often unaware of how would I say this? Like who we are in relation to, because we are always in relation. I almost feel like I need to leave it there because um, and that we are always, breath is a wonderful example because it responds to everything that happens. Our inner state, our outer state, the stressors, the stimuli, breath will respond to everything. And okay, if I now answer to my previous question of okay, what is really breath work? For those of you who kind of want a little bit more anchoring in the in something that is more familiar, is that quite often breath work is being used for changing the state of the nervous system or kind of changing the experience of life. Through changing the state of the nervous system, the brain waves and all that. Of course, it can also be used more like for functional goals to improve digestion or activate the vagus nerve or get more to the parasympathetic nervous system activation, those kind of stuff. But nevertheless, what this way of working with the breath as a tool often ignores is that we are always in relation. And actually what we are is just a web of relationships. Would you want to continue from there? Because I
Oh
see
yeah.
like when
Oh yeah. This is
I'm
juicy.
done. I'm happy with this.
Look, this is the juiciest. Because this is like where I guess your work meets my work exactly in this layer of relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so also, you said somewhere in the beginning, with like air quotes or something, like the body-mind connection. Like the mind brain went immediately into like what is even body and what is even mind.
Yes.
Yeah, because again, it's like it's how I perceive it, the body, mind as one thing,
Mm,
as a web of agreements, as a web of relationships.
mm,
And then what tends to happen with like contemporary human modern way of being human, we tend to over identify with the thing, like emotion or state, or even though there's the whole identity that is a very well constructed identity over time,
mm,
all the things, how we do life, how we behave, what we eat, how we sleep, like all of it is a
mm.
very well constructed web of agreements.
Yeah.
And then having a layer in between that, if we talk like consciousness, or also the way how I like to speak about it is a deep self and a
Mm,
small self. Yeah, the small self is completely over identified with everything. And the small self needs to work on trauma because I have this trauma and I must work it out. I must cry it out of my system. I must release it. Right.
mm,
And the deep self is when we are rooted and stand in the deep self, there is this layer of relationship that becomes available.
mm,
And so when we are, and let's take breath here to me, because breath to me is also like the way how I kind of lately been exploring it more is a connective tissue, which is again like this layer of relationality, layer of relationship that really connects like all these threads that connect me, whatever the me is,
mm,
to everything else. And it kind of becomes this big soup situation when
mm.
everything just souping at the same time, and through breath, that is the connective tissue.
Yeah.
And then through that is like, then I can have a relationship with, I don't know, trauma or whatever it is, like whatever the challenge is. Through that, through this connective tissue, I can have a relationship.
Mm,
And then there is no over identification. And then by default, when I am able to find this, there's so much more stability in daily life. It's just insane.
yeah.
And that's it. It's like yesterday I was thinking about it, and I even wrote like a little Instagram post, which felt very funny to share. It's like, I've been diagnosed with a chronic condition, and the chronic condition I've been diagnosed with is human condition,
Mm,
because like modern humans also thanks to all this trauma scene and trauma education and everything and nervous system understanding, like we are so educated about things. We love diagnosing ourselves so much
yeah.
with all kinds of stuff.
Mm.
Like people come to you and say like, "Oh, I feel so dorsal. There's something wrong with me." I'm like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
like,
Mm,
right? There is no layer of relationship to the thing,
mm,
because when you are in relationship to the thing, the feeling dorsal, whatever that might be, like for each person here,
mm.
is a wave, is a very natural movement.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot here. I could just go on, and there's like so many threads to follow. I'm gonna leave it here as well.
Oh,
But all in all, I feel like the art of relating, I'm sorry, I'm just cannot stop.
yes.
Now I cannot stop.
One
The
minute
art,
more.
okay, art of relating is a lost art.
Yes.
We just don't know how to relate. And I'm not talking, the also important point, not talking about like eye gazing and holding hands with a person, and like, because also relational work has become something completely removed from the actual relationality with life,
Mm.
but really coming back to, am I in relationship with life,
Mm.
like
Mm.
for real, in a felt way?
Yeah.
Not in a mental construct of like, oh yeah, I'm alive, life is happening. What, well, I don't know what that is, but
Mm.
the subtle quality of aliveness that is moving through everything and everyone, and through everything and through everyone. Am I?
Mm.
That's to me kind of the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to point out one symptom of this, how you and how I often see people and meet people, um, is the question, am I doing this right or wrong? Am I breathing right? Am I
Yes. Oh, don't don't do this. Could be like a whole episode.
I'm in this like ending mode, so we're going to
This is not an ending. This is like a whole new beginning.
it's a cliffhanger. So
Yeah, yeah, cliffhanger.
I think I really, really think that and feel that it is a symptom of this um that we are not that skilled, unfortunately, in art of relating. And that to me also correlates very strongly with art of breathing. And often art of breathing is like, do this hyperventilation practice, and we will kind of be creative in the breathing process. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the art of life. Like, yes, where the relationship is actually a very, very core factor, that somehow lays an umbrella and foundation from whichever direction you want to look at it,
Mhm.
onto the whole question of art of relating, art of breathing, art of life, the wizardry of of this hmm, of yes, everything.
The wizardry of everything.
Yes. I mean, we need to be honest here. Breath is everything.
I know. And there's a phrase that I love so much, and it just
Mhm.
takes me immediately like into certain certain places.
Mhm.
Everything is forever breathing.
Yeah.
And if you really tune in into that, like
Mm.
everything is forever breathing, and you actually feel that is happening. It's just, that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Exactly. And I feel that this is the perfect place
Yeah.
to to finish our first podcast episode. And we will be back. There will be more stuff. And I'm super, super excited about this and exploring this further with Katja. Any last words from you?
You know, the end. This is my like signature way of finishing anything. Okay, I'm done now. The end.
Yeah, just for information, we are both very bad at endings. But I mean, I think we said some good stuff. Everything is forever breathing. It's all about the art of life, art of breathing, art of relating. I think these are very like good thoughts to end with. And yes, what we talked about in this episode was the technique based versus relationship based view onto breathwork. And what we call it, or this podcast as well, is called Becoming Breath Work. And the work is something we add as humans, not needed. But yes,
Mhm.
we are talking to humans. We are humans as well. We use words. We will spend some time in our mental spaces in exploring this, explaining this, talking about this. So that's it. The end.
The end.
And we'll be back.
See you
Bye
next
bye.
time.